This episode of Living in the 323 is brought to you by Phone Repair Center. Having issues with your technology and need repairs for your phones, tablets, computers, watches, and even gaming consoles, and also are in need of any phone accessories such as cases, screen protectors, chargers, and car phone mounts, check out Phone Repair Center today. You can check them out on Instagram at phone.repair.center or give them a call at 323-304-8037 or even visit them at the shop at 929 Northwestern Avenue, Unit 1.5, Los Angeles, California, 90029, Barton Plaza, 2nd floor, and tell them that NG on the mic sent you. Check out Phone Repair Center today. Enjoy the episode. Beautiful day for a podcast, right, Abby?
Always.
Rain or shine?
Always and forever.
Always and forever. Rain or shine, though?
Rain or shine.
Rain or shine.
I mean, we're in LA, so it really doesn't rain out here, so it's good.
And we're indoors, so
Yes.
it's like...
With beautiful lighting.
Yes, and it would be nice. It actually would be nice to do an outdoor episode.
Yeah, dude, we got a big-ass deck out there.
And I got the microphones to do it, but
There
we'll
you go.
talk about that another time.
Next
episode, maybe.
Catch
We'll
us
see.
outside.
Catch us outside. How about that? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a new episode of Living in the 323. I am your boy, MJ on the mic.
Hey, it's your girl, Princess Abby on the mic. What's up?
Hey, what's happening?
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We just want to say a quick thank you to those who have subscribed to the YouTube channel. I will be sending. Thank you. Yes. I will be sending those stickers this week. And to those of you who are new to the show, welcome to Living in the 323, guys.
Yay.
Thank you for joining us.
Hey, your favorite sound.
It is my favorite sound. I haven't pressed it in a while, but anyways,
It's been a minute.
Let's get to the show because we got a hell of a show today. We got a very special show today.
Oh my God. I'm so excited,
Me
you
too.
guys. I mean, I'm excited for every show, don't get me wrong, but this one, man. Okay. So we have a very special guest who is very dear to my heart. She does so much amazing work for the community, you guys. She is an activist at heart. Her name is Jen. Thank you so much for being here, Jen.
Thank you.
Oh, look, the audience already loves you.
This is what I love. I think I should have a t-shirt gun.
Well, before we do, let me just admire your leather jacket. I'm a sucker for leather jackets.
Thank you.
I'm not wearing mine
I
today.
love the red
but-
top.
Well, we got to represent.
Jen, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Of course, thank you for being
Thank
with
you
us.
for coming out here.
Yeah, for
You had
sure.
quite a drive. How was the drive out here?
It was easy, actually. Had a audiobook on and nerded my way all the way up to
You're
5.
so cute. Alex is like, yes.
Oh, one more thing.
For those of you guys that don't know, Alex loves books.
Now we know. And let's introduce Alex. What's up, Alex?
Hey, Alex.
Yeah, show that
The
finger. It's the finger.
She don't like to be on camera, so she just shows the finger. That's her signature.
I feel you.
Jen got the. She gave me the look.
I'm not. It's just, it's just a very artificial thing that you have to get used to.
Yes.
But I think once you do, then you really kind of show your authentic self.
Yeah.
It's just very difficult.
In the beginning,
In the very
right?
beginning, yeah. But, so is a first marriage, and we all got through that. So,
Jen. I love how serious you are when you joke around.
if there's ever an opportunity to throw an ex-husband under the perfect bus, I will do it.
Man.
Damn, the shade is real.
I gotta give her the. Yeah, that deserves a record scratch, but in a good way.
I love it. I throw my exes under the bus all the time too.
Oh, there's a whole street full of
I mean, I can't say
buses with people underneath
It's
them.
a boulevard of broken dreams. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, crushed souls.
Boulevard of broken souls.
Oh my God. I love you, Jen. I love
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome to Living in the 323, honey.
Yes. Well, I brought the 619 to the 323.
Oh,
So, hey.
hey.
Represent.
Yes,
Shout out
yes.
to San Diego
San
and everybody out
Diego.
there.
Hey, all my Dagos.
Yes.
So go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say, what exactly is it that you do let our people know? Because you're a big activist. For those of you guys, a lot of people don't know her, but she works very close to my brother, literally in prison, Calipatria State Prison. So I want you to elaborate more on that. On what is it that you do exactly?
You got it. So I am the program coordinator for the Alternatives to Violence Project at Calipatria State Prison. And I have been doing this for 4 years now. I spend my weekends inside an all-male, maximum security, level 4 prison. So the place where you...
Sorry, I wanted to elaborate. Please. Can you elaborate on level 4 prison so people know?
So in the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitations, there are levels of custody, which are levels of security within that they use to categorize their facilities, right? A level 1 prison is going to be a very minimum security prison. Level 4 is your most maximum security prison. So Calipatria sits on the level 4 yard. So it's one of the most secured prisons, I guess, right? And so I've been out there in the middle of the desert for a few years now, and that's where I met Lester. Yes. And so we have Lester's a great teammate. We work together very well.
That's awesome.
And so we will get into all that, but right now I'm actually going into another facility, which is in San Diego, which is in Donovan, Richard J. Donovan Correctional Facility. That is a multi-layered security facility that ranges, I think, from 1, I believe, to 3 or 4. So it has very, very many different yards to it. I am actively working and putting together things inside the level 3. So it's a little bit different for me.
Okay. You're not used to it.
I'm not used to a level 3, and I'm just really amazed because I'm like, you guys get tape? That's crazy, right? Because
they get tape?
They get tape.
What?
I know.
For those of you guys that don't know, this is like a big deal. Girl, yes. I tried to send my brother a lot of stamps and they threw them away. Yeah. The COs because he got too many. So tape is a big deal.
Okay, hold on. Sorry, can you elaborate on what tape means?
So there's just certain things that are not allowed in prison, right?
Okay.
And they're for security reasons, I'm sure. Of course. Right? Yeah. And so one of the things that they're not allowed to have is tape. And because it can be used, I'm sure, for X, Y, and Z reasons.
It's numerous of things. Yeah,
numerous. They're limited to a lot of things that they cannot have.
Just little things I notice about being in a different security prison.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's just like the little things, right? I have a gentleman who's on a level 1 yard, and he said, "We have a microwave."
What?
I was like,
what the hell?
What? And he said, it's been 20 years since I've worked a microwave.
Oh, snap.
Wow. Right? So what I do at Calipat is I run workshops for men in prison, and they're geared to decrease the violence inside the prison yard, right? The program that I run, the Alternatives to Violence Project, is the only evidence-based self-help program in CDCR. Now, normally people will go, okay, that sounds great, but let me really unpack what that means, right? So aside from education, which we know education, gives the brain an opportunity to develop and your worldviews change and, all of those things. So that's evidence-based because we know education works, right? Academics work. So what AVP, which you'll hear from, that's what I'll call it from now on. AVP.
That's the acronym.
Right. Is we're the only, aside from education, we have academics behind our program. So what that means is we're proven to work. Anytime I walk into a prison yard, you are given a guaranteed model of success, period.
Wow.
So
I love it.
This is not like an AA or an NA, or these are feel-good groups, and although they do have value, they're not proven to work, right? And we know that, right? Because there's no database, because the key behind it is anonymous, right? You can't have a membership if you're anonymous. So there's no way to track the data, right? Well, in AVP, we do that. And so that's what makes us really important. And that's kind of like our Willy Wonka golden ticket that I can wave at Sacramento and say, you need me in this facility because I'm proven to work.
Wow.
Period. And so
that's amazing.
So aside from education, AVP is it in CDCR, in the whole state of California. Now understand, state of California has the most prisons in the entire United States. Yes. Okay? And so right now I think... give or take, I think with some of the releases during COVID, the CDCR population, including women, including like fire camp, I want to say it's sitting around 170,000 incarcerated folk in California. That's a small city. That's a small city, right?
Yeah,
and so
that's a lot of numbers.
Yeah, it really is. And so what my goal is applying AVP is... it's proven to work to decrease the violence inside the prison yard, right? But what it also does is those tools are used once they've been released into society. They carry these tools that they have learned. And so what that ultimately does is that reduces recidivism.
Yes, I was just about to say that.
Right? So,
right on, sister.
So for those of you that don't know what recidivism is, it's the rate in which you return to prison. And let's be very bold here when we talk about the state of California and recidivism and what that looks like, because it's absurd. And that's the best word ridiculous. I can talk about.
Yeah.
The system is not set up for success. The system is set up for them to return. And
preach,
preach.
You are preaching to the choir.
That's something that has been told to me numerous of times.
Right. Yeah, this is why I decided to major in sociology. Once I saw the recidivism rate, I was like, wow, this is insane. Like, how is it that we call it California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, CDCR, which is the acronym, yet all of these inmates, for the most part, we're looking at them returning within 3 years.
Yes.
Within 3 years. If you are on parole, probation, and the police catch you for any little thing, boom, you're going right in.
So these are two really important things to talk about when we're talking about California recidivism. One of them is, and this is something that your brother and I actually put together.
Oh.
Because
shout out to my brother, Lester. I love you.
Lester. Visual math works well. And I'm a big fan of that. And so this is what your brother and I actually do. So what I do... He
loves math, I'll tell you that much. He's the numbers guy. I'm the writer. He's the numbers guy.
So what we do is we have about 30 men in a workshop, in a classroom, and I'll make everybody stand up, right? Or let me backtrack that. I'll make 10 people stand up. And I'll say, this represents 100%, right? Now 3 of you sit down. The rest of you are coming back. And that hits really hard. Because
that
right now...
That hit me right now, too.
Because California recidivism rate is between 68 and 80%.
Yeah, it's really high. It was about 60 when I was in college.
So the second part of this recidivism conversation is this. Most people return to prison not because they've committed another crime. It's because of a parole violation.
Yes.
Okay.
Because of the structures that are set up.
Yeah.
Right? It is not meant for success. Now, this means you're coming back on that post 3 years release. 7 out of 10 will go back. Oh my God. We have to.
That makes me want to cry. I know.
It's tough. Like, it hits me because me as a guy, it's like I've hung out with gang members. I've hung out with people that unfortunately have gone to prison and, have gotten out on parole. And, fortunately, some are still here. Some have gotten back. I wanted to ask you about this because I was in school, and one of the things that they told me was that the reason why a lot of people are going back to prison is because right there, they don't have to worry about any expenses at all. It's like they're there, they get fed, they have a bed to lay on. As it being out here, it's like they have to focus on other stuff. I want to know your take on that.
I think that's a right-wing talking point.
Okay.
Period. I really do. Nobody wants to be poor, and nobody wants to go without. Nobody does. Right? I really believe, people in prison are not thriving. And I've ate prison food. It's not good.
I heard.
I've been in a level 4 cell. I've been on a bunk. I see the metal that they sleep on. They don't get pillows. So
I've seen that.
The fact that someone or a certain group of people would say, "Oh, they just want to go get 3 hots and a cot," is absurd.
I think
it's really demoralizing because a lot of the people that are in there, right, are in there for a lack of resources, right, on the outside. These are policy issues that need to be fixed on the outside. So you have to understand, and I'm not saying that there's not people who think of that way. There's a very distinct difference between jail and prison. County jail is different. I'm talking about prison. Nobody wants to go to prison. If you go to prison, you're not going to prison for a year just to get away from society because you can get dental care. You go to prison, you're going to prison for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
So that's not somebody that's cognitive saying, you know what, that's a life I want to live.
Yeah. I think
it's just not.
I think that just like to piggyback on what you said, I think it's just somebody not wanting to address the real issue. It's these are a group of people, usually the upper class, wanting us to stay there because technically, we're going to get a little deep right now.
Let's do it. Let's do it. We're here. Hey, I'm here. We're here to learn today. Like, we're going to educate our viewers. So make sure you guys, we don't, if something is said and it's offensive to you, we mean no offense. We're just trying to educate. I'm even trying to, learn more about this because, it's a part of life. I feel like we have to know what's truly behind the walls of a prison.
And this is technically LA culture, sadly to say. Everybody from LA knows somebody that's busted.
Yes. Yep.
Like this is somebody in your backyard basically that can get busted. But what I really wanted to touch base on is it's usually the upper class not wanting to address these issues. Like she said, lack of resources. We come from certain neighborhoods where you got to do what you got to do, quote unquote, in order to get that money and feed your children. Because if your children are hungry, what are you going to do if nobody's wanting to hire you? Now, we're talking about recidivism, right? A lot of these people cannot get a 9-to-5 job. A lot of people say, well, all you do is get a job. For one, we're in a pandemic. Nobody's hiring, period.
Yeah. Can I add to that, though?
Yeah.
I remember one episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where Uncle Phil he's a judge, and he actually had someone that hasn't been able to find a job. And the thing that says, like, no one wants to hire a con. And
that was my point. And that was my next point.
And it's unfortunate because I'm just like these people deserve second chances, in my opinion.
Everybody deserves a second chance.
Yeah, they do.
And what I was telling you yesterday is society as a whole, what I've came to realize is very unforgiving. We live in a selfish society where it's a me generation, me society. What can you do for me? How much money can you bring to my pocket? And a lot of exploitation.
For sure.
Yeah.
So and we call that neoliberalism, right?
Yes.
It's this hyper individualism. It's the bootstrap theory. Well, we know the bootstrap theory doesn't work.
It doesn't.
It does not. All you have to do is walk into a prison yard and look at the racial demographic.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah.
So
and if you take a look at that now that we're touching base on that, like there's, I have nothing against any other race, gender, nothing. But for the most part, we see males that are African American and are Latinos. That is your highest race in there. Minorities, we're technically the minorities, but in prison, we're the majority. You see a small portion of white people, small portion of Asian or other, and we technically dominate those places, these prisons, which is so depressing because now we're talking about, okay, we're all known as gang members, gang affiliated people. And technically we are making the upper class richer because this is a system structured to where they're getting money off of us. We're already broke as it is, as a majority, usually for the most part, as minorities. We have our own struggles that we have to overcome in society to become successful. There's different layers to that, different variables, but in prison, do you know how expensive it is, bro? How much money I've invested into my brother at this point throughout numerous amount of years.
I'm sure it's
my brother is about to have.
What we think.
Yeah, my brother's about to have 13 years this month in just incarcerated, not in prison, but incarcerated. 13 years. County jail is more expensive than prison, but I have to send them quarterly packages, which, by the way, I got to send them. I haven't sent it to him, Alex, because I know you're going to tell me. I haven't sent it to him yet.
She gave you the death stare.
Yeah, I got to send them a package, money on the phone, visits, that food that we have to eat while it's cold and microwave is so fucking expensive, bro. Like, we're getting exploited left and right.
Yep.
Plus them in there, like all the shit they got to go through. Like, he's not sitting in a fucking 5-star hotel. You know what I mean? Like, we're paying all this money for what? Plus a lawyer, legal costs.
Yes. Well, let's
sorry, I'm very passionate.
No, for sure.
You're
You're gonna hear me like let's talk about geography. Right? Let's talk about geography. Let's talk about
let's get into that.
Where the prisons are located in California, right?
Yes.
So let's just talk about Calipatria in itself, because that's what I know, right? Yeah. So I live in San Diego, and I travel out to Calipatria pre-pandemic, because I haven't been inside the facilities for a year now. But that's a 2.5-hour drive for me, right?
Yeah,
One way.
Desert.
One way. Then I have to stay at a little prison motel all weekend, Friday and Saturday, come home, on Sunday night. I have to feed myself. And like, families do this from Los Angeles or from San Bernardino or, from San Diego in itself, all the time. And this creates financial hardship. So it's not only, like you were talking about earlier, about like, this is just the way like the U.S. treats, ex-convicts. Well, the thing of it is, right, this stigma that we've put on people, the thing of it is, at the end of the day, is because the U.S. is so punitive when it comes to their criminal justice system. Instead of saying, Lester, you're going to do 10 years. Lester's not going to do 10 years. Lester's going to do a minimum of 10 years. Yeah. And then he's going to go in front of the parole board multiple times until they finally deem him eligible, right? And he can walk the straightest line. He can get all the degrees.
Oh my God, I want to cry.
He can do all of these things. I mean, let me give you an example. One of Lester and I's inside teammates who was just recently released. Shout out, D. I know you're going to be hearing this. So, Brother Mosley, right? Brother Mosley was incarcerated in 1985. He was just released in November, and he was eligible for parole in the early 90s.
Wow.
So understand, this man did 35 years in prison. He went before the board 7 times, and they denied him.
Was there a reason why they denied him, though?
I mean, of course, it's not variables. There's multiple certain things. I mean, they could be egregious or they could be completely minimal. In fact, one of my inside teammates was just denied parole for 3 years because he had sent a card out to an individual who was just released as a congratulations card.
Yeah. I have another question. We're going to get back into the whole conversation of parole.
Yes. Hold on, guys, before we continue.
Yes.
Just to let the audience know, this is a very sensitive topic for me, so you're going to see me crying left and right. Don't mind me. I am an emotional human being, too.
Look, I'm glad that we're doing this episode because,
I'm so happy.
We have someone that's literally in there with them.
She's a G.
Yeah, she's a G
for doing this, man. We love you, Jen.
Yes, we do.
We love you.
And this is for our listeners as well that have questions, about this topic. So, again, thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah,
but I wanted to ask you a question. So when an inmate goes into the parole board, what exactly do they look for to deem this person eligible for parole?
That's a great question. So there's, I think it varies, obviously, on the individual. But what has been told to me by my teammates who have gone before the Board of Parole and the feedback that they have received by those that have been released and those that have been denied, right? They're looking for some consistency of no behavior infractions. In prison, we call those 115s, right? So you can't have, and that's the form number that they actually use to write a behavior report. So no 115s. You can't have obviously any kind of physical altercations, any of those things. They're looking for degrees.
Contraband also.
Right. You have to be clean. You have to, what we say, just stay in your square.
Stay out of trouble, pretty much.
Right. And they're also looking for, what have you done? Right? Like, this time cannot be for naught.
Yeah.
So what have you done with your time? What groups have you participated in?
The rehabilitation process.
The R part, right?
Quote unquote.
Right. And so so they're looking for, were you part of all of these different programs? And one of them, I can tell you, is the question always comes up is, have you been part of AVP?
Wow.
And then you will get either it's a binary response, yes or no. Right? And they say, okay, yes, that's great. Good for you. But what was your level of engagement with AVP? Did you just go to the workshop, or were you part of the leadership team?
Wow.
Because that's a very big difference, right? Because you can participate all you want, and that's great. You're getting something out of it, right? But if you put yourself in that position to be part of the leadership team, now what you're in charge, you're mentoring others.
Yes.
You're pretty much being the person that they look up to.
So you've taken on, you're saying, this is working for me, so therefore I'm going to push this out, and I'm going to try and apply these tools that I've learned, right? And I'm going to get other people, right, to come into this workshop, and I'm going to practice all of these things that I've learned. Therefore, it creates this a really tight-knit support group inside, right? The main goal, what we say in prison, right? There's 4 ways to get to the liquor store. If freedom is the liquor store, everybody wants to get home, right? But there's different ways on how we go about doing that. Some people do it through education. Some people do it through self-help classes. Some people want to do it through the courts. Some people just want to sleep their time away and just be done, right? Everybody has their different avenue, Boulevard Street, that they want to get home to. What I do is I am providing this means, right? Here's the boulevard. This is the quickest way to get home. Take this road. Because the parole board says, take Jen's workshop and don't come back here until you do. And I literally have transcripts that men that have been released have given me that say those exact same things. And that means a lot. So understand, like, when I write a letter to the parole board for an individual, that is weighted extremely heavy in the parole board's decision for eligibility.
Wow.
And so, again, when we talk about proven models of success and the empirics behind the AVP program, the parole board knows this, and they are going to look at that a lot, with a lot more weight. I keep using that word, but that's really it's so heavy compared to everything else, and that's the first paper that they pull out.
Yeah, because you have more favor, but it's not necessarily favoritism. It's just because you're equipping them to become productive members of society, to reintegrate back into society.
So, and this also works off of this, multifaceted approach that AVP actually has, because it's the only program that is proven to work inside and outside, right? And if you go to CDCR's website and look at their mission statement, right, they will literally tell you in there that their number one goal is not to have people come back. Okay, well, if that's your number one goal, then we should be focusing on the tools that we're giving this population to not get back. And this goes back to policy, right? So if the policies aren't set up for success once you're released, odds are you're probably going to come back.
Yeah, so we need more rehabilitation programs.
Right.
Like
so what AVP does is it works both ways. Right. And I just want to throw this, I'm going to piggyback off of something earlier, but this is really important because, I always get a lot of questions about why do I go into all male facilities? Why am I not going into women's facilities, right? Mm-hmm. And first of all, one, location. I am only around male prisons, all male prisons.
Very
so
true.
First of all, that's where I'm geographically located. But second of all, listen, at the end of the day, I am walking in and I'm doing all of this work with these men, damaged, dangerous men who are there for a multitude of reasons. Indirectly, this is what I do for women and children because it's making these men better. When they come out, they're going to have the tools, they're going to have the empathy and the communication skills, right? And not to be impulsive and react to situations of conflict violently. Yes. So this is my part indirectly, right? In reducing violence against women and children. And so I took it upon myself to go into an all-male facility and say, you know what, I'm going to be this woman that goes inside here and stands in here because I'm doing this for all women. So part of this,
I love it.
Right?
I love it.
I mean, it seems like it would be a natural thing. Women should go into women's facilities and men should go into men's facilities. But
it's like a social norm. Like it's kind of like a social norm. Yeah, it would be.
Right. But you'd be surprised how many women volunteers are active in men's prisons. It's very asymmetrical. Actually, gender differences.
I wanted to ask you, how was it the first time you entered a male facility?
Okay. I didn't know what to expect. And my whole interpretation of what prison was, looking back on that, 5 years ago, was what I had seen on reality shows. Lockup, Raw. I watched pop culture. I watched Hollywood's sensation and glamorization of prison, and so this pop culture, Shawshank, if you will, kind of narrative, right? All this MSNBC Lockup, Raw stuff, all of this blood sport, all of these things that was in my head. This was the only reference I had,
and I will. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
I will say that in reality shows, movies, I feel like they not exaggerate, but they make it seem like prison is such a, like, when you get there, everyone's just death staring you. Like, I've seen so many movies like that, and
you're right.
I mean,
it's the stigma again.
It really is, and again, it's not
like that.
It's currency. It's trying to get that clickbait. Watch our show. We're going to show the most, violent, people in these situations, but they don't show people like Lester carrying his books, wearing his glasses, in a cap and gown, getting his AA degree. They don't show that.
Exactly.
Can you repeat that one more time? What did he do right now? What did he do?
My man, Lester,
yes,
donned a black cap and gown when he graduated with his AA degree.
Hey man, my boy.
That's right.
Majored in sociology like me, like his sister. No, and I do want to add this. Thank you for sharing that. I talked about that in the past in one of the episodes, but I do want to add that the reason why I said my brother works so close to her is because, as she's saying, the one of the most important things is to get involved and be involved in leadership, and that's actually what my brother does. My brother's basically important. Yeah, definitely. My brother's basically like her right-hand man in there. He's really assisting her in many different levels.
I trust Lester with my life. Period.
Wow.
I mean, I would too. The way
but I love
with the way with what he's presented to you, it's just like he hasn't let you down. So
Never.
It's like. I mean, bravo to you for trusting him and believing him. Bravo to him, because it's like, I feel like prisoners get the wrong,
for sure,
like the wrong message. They're like, oh no, I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna be here and I'm not gonna do shit. Yeah.
And let me just kind of unpack a little bit a conversation that Lester and I had after he graduated.
Oh, I want to hear this. I want to hear this.
You got the tissues ready, Alex?
I got one right here.
All right. Oh, she came prepared.
This is important.
Oh, it is.
Because there's two different, groups in prison, right? You have what we call the general population, which we call mainline.
Yeah.
And then you have the SNY yard, which is been, redubbed, like is the protective custody yard, right?
Yeah.
So programming, education, a lot of these self-help programs, they pack the SNY yards a lot with these. It's an incentive, right? We have all this cool stuff going on in these SNY and these protective custody yards because there is a lot of active gangs inside CDCR system, and those prisoners are going to be mostly on the main line, right?
Yeah.
So the ultimate goal is to get individuals to drop out if they believe that they're active, and get them to go over to the protective custody yard, the SNY yard. And then they can benefit from all of these programs. And, Lester and I had this conversation. I said, I think you graduating with your AA, there was not too many of those guys there on the main line that did, and he was one of them. And I said, tell me, like, what's your goal? And he said, my first goal was to get my AA degree and graduate from the main line. I want to show everyone that you can do this on the main line.
Yeah.
You can graduate college and be on the main line. You don't have to go to this other place and do this.
Yeah.
And so he's really, and
he's being a representation.
He really is. And
you got to admire that.
Come on, he's a trailblazer.
He's so smart, bro.
What he's ultimately trying to do is get his bachelor's degree. And he said, I'm going to get my bachelor's degree and I'm going to get it on the main line.
Yeah.
And that to me is just like...
Shout out to him.
I'm going to give him the horn.
Like, my brother, I don't think you guys understand. Like, I know she does and I know she does, but I know you don't know my brother. But for those of you guys that don't know him, he's very smart. Like, he can have a full-on conversation and start debating and give you facts after facts after facts, and we'll start just, like, having, like, a full-on debate with you about different topics, like religion, math, and history. Like, he is, like, so smart, bro. She's constantly sending him books now, and he's, like, eating them up in, like, a day or a week. And I'm just like, wow. Like, he is, like, low-key a swear.
Alex,
he actually asked me for the book list, so there you go. I'm so sorry.
Oh, there you go.
That is so funny. Well, thank you for doing it.
But that's not, the thing, Lester should be the standard.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
And he knows that, and he applies that. And so when you see Lester, you know what Lester's walk is about, right?
Yeah.
And Lester doesn't get obstructions because of that. He is on this journey, and nothing's going to stop him.
Yeah.
Right. And when it I mean, it really is. And I'm very, like, I'm honored that I get to be on that journey with him.
Oh, that is so beautiful.
You've done so much for him, so it's like, I'm happy that he didn't take this for granted, because
no, definitely not.
You've
My
helped
brother's
him.
So thankful, and so am I. Like, I do want to say thank you so much. Like, I know I told you before we hopped on the mic, but with all my heart, thank you so much for everything that you do.
Welcome. You're welcome.
You do so much,
and
you're not taken for granted. Not from him and not from our family. And I say that on her behalf too, like, and my mom. We're so thankful because there's not many people like you.
Oh.
And I feel like as a society, again, is so unforgiving. My brother's, for those of you guys that don't know, he got 50 years to life. He's in there for murder. Like, he's such a good person. Like, a mistake does not define you.
No, it doesn't.
So we need more people like you in society. We need more people who are caring and really are doing it for the person's mental health, because mental health is so real. We were talking about this upstairs, how, a lot of inmates are committing suicide. A lot of inmates are going through it. And if you think about it, we're currently in a pandemic, and if our society right now is struggling with this, being on quote unquote lockdown, that means you guys have never been to jail or prison.
That's real. That's real.
That shit is shit is real.
How has the whole COVID-19 been, not just for them, but for you as well, working with them? Like, how has that impacted you?
It's not been good. Like, it
bet.
just really hasn't. So the last time I was
Horrible.
in a facility was the weekend before St. Patrick's Day last year. And
we're all gonna remember that.
Right.
Week.
I was literally loading my car to go out to Calipat, and when I got a call from admin saying, you know what, unfortunately, we're shutting it down.
We were supposed to
statewide.
go that same weekend. Yeah. We were gonna go to Calipat.
And they shut it all down. And so it's been almost a year now. What I did, that was in March. So end of April, beginning of May, what I did is I put together a packet for, gosh, how many men do I have there? I would say total, because I have multiple yards that I run at Calipat. So I think between the 2 yards, I had like almost 70 to 80 men. And I put together, some curriculum packets for them. And I drove them out to Calipat because it was cheaper for me to drive out there and come back to mail it.
Yeah, the mail's fucking expensive.
Oh,
so I drove out there
yeah,
and handed all of these, envelopes of stuff to do. And what the packet included was identity work. We talked about basically what I was trying to do was, how are you coping with this lockdown? And it was a lot of stuff for them to fill out. And I said, mail it back to me. And so I have all these envelopes at home with all of this work that they've done. My ultimate goal is to put it together and add it to our existing curriculum. So this will be kind of just a new thing.
I like that you did that though, because one,
it's very
I think in a way you made them really think about how am I truly feeling, because a lot of people are going through mental stress because of this pandemic.
Yeah, they need to express themselves.
Yeah,
and honestly, I don't know if you know, but I was in juvenile hall. So
because I know you. No.
That's so funny. I wish I knew you back then. You definitely would have been a great help to me. So just to kind of give you a background, my brother's case, for those of you guys that don't know, happened tomorrow. On Valentine's Day,
it did.
2008.
It did.
Yeah, that's why I hate Valentine's Day. I hate celebrating Valentine's Day.
I don't like Valentine's Day too, but I mean,
no, I absolutely hate it.
But I get why. I understand your reason.
Yeah, it's very traumatic. But what happened? Yeah, it's been very it's a day that I don't like to remember, because I remember just seeing helicopters and yellow tape everywhere and the block getting raided, and it was very horrible. But anyways, back to what I was saying. My brother, his case happened that day. I caught a case on April 25th of 2008. My brother was already on the run. And so I ended up going to juvenile hall. And, my poor mama, she was a single mama at that point, so we put her through hell. But during the time that I was incarcerated, I remember we had somebody in there who basically said, he was, I don't know what he was, I don't know his position, but he would come into the juvenile hall facility and he would, he brought us notebooks and he had us write, and he basically started off the sentence with a couple words. I don't know how many words, but maybe
just
a few. Yeah, just a prompt. And then he was like, whatever you guys feel, I want you guys to write either a sentence, a paragraph, an essay, whatever you guys feel, but I need you guys to write and just whatever you want and express yourself, how you're feeling and whatever you feel. That's where I realized how powerful it is to write. And that's where I started learning poetry. And that's my form of expression now. And I think the reason why I say that is because when you're incarcerated and you have nobody to talk to, it's very hard to release your feelings.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what my brother is going through. I can resonate with him in the sense of I've been there. I'm genuinely, and it's ironic for me to say this, but I'm actually thankful that I got busted before he did. Because I can say, brother, I get you. I feel you. I was there.
There's some solidarity there.
Yeah, sure. I can definitely resonate with him and through his emotions. And so anytime he feels a certain way and he feels angry, frustrated, I just want to get out, I'm like, trust me, I was there. I didn't think I was going to get out. It was through the grace of God. If not, I would still be there today, and I'm thankful that I got out. But it's a very important thing for people to do, because you need to express yourself. Mental health is real. Being incarcerated and not knowing when you're going to get out or getting a long sentence is not an easy thing to deal with, nor for the person who's incarcerated, nor the family, because technically we're in there with him, whether people like it or not.
I'm still there. You had asked me earlier about what is it like being, what was my first time going into prison, right? Well, I spent a Friday night, all day Saturday and all day Sunday in there, and I cried all the way home. And it was a moment of survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really was. One, because I am a white woman. And I have done so many criminal things that I have never been busted for.
Yeah.
And I had to sit in a room with a bunch of men who I heard say the same things that I have done that have received years in prison. I will never, ever forget that. That's an anvil that lives on my chest. Nobody enters prison and leaves unaffected. Nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that
I've heard that.
that means
I
people
can
that
attest to that.
live there, who are guests of the governor. That's the people who work there. It's the volunteers like myself. It's the families that come there. You don't enter that space. You don't smell the smell. You don't drink the water out of the fountain. You don't hear the noises, the alarms, the
keys.
metals, the keys.
The keys are so traumatic.
And it's these are things that affect the human psyche very deep. And so that lends more discussion about the people who do work there. Because if you're working there and you leave there, your mind is always still there. My mind is always there. It's Wi-Fi. Like I said earlier, it's going to be 4:00 count. I know what time things happen. I do. I know where they have to be at. So I still look at the clock, and I haven't been there in a year. And you're just impacted by all of this constant trauma.
And this doesn't just affect people that are in there. This affects people of family members,
Yes,
especially
everywhere.
Everywhere.
So let's take it from a money point of view, right? So if we want to dig a little,
we can go for 2 more minutes.
Okay, so if you want to dig a little further, what's really interesting is if you want to talk about if we wanted to decarcerate the California prison system right now, right, and go back to numbers prior to the '94 crime bill, right, and before everything started to escalate, we would, let's see, how do I say this? Over 1 million support jobs would be lost.
Wow.
Because that's how
1 million
support
Jesus.
jobs.
Not
And this
even
is
money,
This
just
is not people
jobs.
this is not people that work even in the prison. We're talking support services.
Yeah.
We're talking about the people who make the food. We're talking about the leather shops or in the little rural areas that do all the leather work for the CEOs and the boots and the belts. And we're talking about, all of these support services that are set up in these rural areas that are the economy for these little towns. The prison turns out to be the economy. When the prisoners are putting on fundraisers to buy the Little League football team or baseball team in that town their uniforms, what happens when the prison population decarcerates and they're not able to provide that money for the high school or whatever? That means the people in the town have to do it, and they haven't been able to do it. The prison is the economy. The prison is the economy. And why would you want to take money away from the kids? Right?
This is very deep, you guys.
Yeah.
Very deep.
We're going to get even deeper into this.
All right, so our lovely camera woman had a question, and she didn't want to come up here, so I'm going to ask for you.
She's literally having a bite.
Yes, I had to time it correctly.
We just had to put you on blast
Love
a
you,
little
Alex.
bit, Alex.
No, but shout out to Alex, though, because she's been really dope at helping us out with this, and we're only getting better behind the camera, everything, so...
Yes.
All right.
Camera woman
so
ever.
her question was to you, Jen, was what sparked you to go this direction? Like, what made you want to work in the prisons with everyone in there?
Well, I got in a fight.
Okay.
Interesting.
Let's talk about
with
this.
Who? How did this happen?
Did you win?
I always win.
Oh,
She's gangster, you guys.
So right. So this is how it started, really, and it's kind of a cool story and I tell this to the men all the time. This is a question I get asked all the time. Why are you here? Nobody comes here. Why would you want to come here? And the answer is, I was sitting in a political science class at San Diego City College, and there was a heated discussion, and it was about extrajudicial police killings. Mm-hmm. And it became, just a toss back between two groups of people, and I was very vocal that blue lives don't matter because it's not a thing. And I was very passionate about my stance and how I thought, like we had talked about earlier, the U.S. is a very punitive place, and that trickles down to our law enforcement as well. So after about a 10 or 15 minute really heavy, intense debate with a couple of pro Blue Lives Matter students in the room, the class was over, and I made my way down the hallway, and there was this little older woman who sat in the back of the class. And she came up to me and she said, "Jen, I want to talk to you really quick. I really loved, I loved listening to you talk. You're very passionate about what you were, arguing, and I learned a lot in just that little time frame. And I really think that you belong in prison."
Wow.
And I said, "Bitch, you're probably right."
Wow, I can say I agree with her. We definitely have learned a lot with you here in such a small amount of time.
And so, she and her husband, retired couple, and they were taking a couple of little community college classes, and they ended up in this poli-sci class together. And so she said, "Walk with me, and let me tell you what I do," and I volunteer. And so she gave me this whole little speech about how she runs this communications workshop in prison, and she said, "I would really like to take you in there." And I said, "All right, lady, I'll buy what you're selling." Because I knew my original plan was I wanted to go to law school. That was my path. I wanted to go to law school, and I wanted to become a public defender. I wanted to be the best public defender I possibly could. I wanted to be the public defender for me when I needed one, right?
I wish you could have been my brother's public defender.
So that was my path, and so now I have this woman, this older woman, standing there telling me so sweet about how she goes in these men's facilities, and she does these workshops with them, and she wants to take me. And I said, "Okay, so I've been in trouble with the law several times. Are they going to let me in prison?" And she said, "Oh yeah, everybody can come." Oh, okay. All right. And so it was several weeks after that. I'm in a car with her driving out to Calipat. And I walked into the SNY yard, and I was greeted by 5 men in blue standing there at the gate. And the smiles on their faces, I will never forget that. A lot of those guys are still there. Some of them have been released. Some of them have transferred to other facilities. But there's a core group there. And they treated me like a queen. Really? They rolled out the red carpet for me and this older woman that I was with. And what happened was I participated in this workshop as if I were a prisoner for the first time, and I was going through this workshop. I had no concept of what I was going to be doing, how long I was going to be there. Mm-hmm. Nothing. And like I said, I spent 3 days in there. And when I left, I was crying because I thought I have to go back. I cannot not go back after you've seen this, after you experience this, after I went to Chow Hall with, 50 men in a level 4 maximum security prison, and I pulled a tray of slop, and I went and I sat down in the middle of all of these men and started asking them questions and building these relationships and asking why and who are you and why are you important, right? Making these relationships and these friends and these bonds. And I decided that no matter what a terrible space that is, what a dark and violent place, the way it smells, the way the food is, the way the clothes are, all of those things was a place that I could not leave. I had to go back. And I wanted to, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Now, this goes into a whole nother little side story is I always knew that I wanted to do something in the criminal justice reform area, just because, I was a feral teen and young adult, and I did a lot of unsavory things, and I was left in the bottom of a courthouse, handcuffed to a woman who had passed out. I was forgotten down there for 8 hours.
Jesus.
Right. So these things
traumatic.
these things interested me, and it was like, okay, well, I want to be the person that I needed, right? When I was when I was there. So, as I decided that I wanted to go back to prison, I was really at the same time I was having a lot of difficulties with my academic planning. And I a lot of school counselors will always tell you, what is it that you love? What do you love? Find that thing that you love and go do that. Well, let me tell you something. When you have had trauma in your life, it's hard to find happiness in anything.
It is.
And so when someone's telling you to go find something that you love and do that one thing for the rest of your life and be good at it, that's very difficult. Mm-hmm. And so one of the last living Black Panthers is incarcerated in Philadelphia, and his name is Mumia Abu-Jamal. And he is an amazing man who produces radio stuff and written works, and he's just an absolute icon when it comes to social justice. And I started going to the library and pulling all his books and reading them, and then I was so bold that I wrote to him. And I said, listen, I'm about to venture into the prison world, and I would like to get your opinion. I find that you give out a lot of solid, wonderful advice in your books, and listening to you speak, that I want to ask your opinion. I said, I'm also having a hard time finding something that I love. Do I want to go to law school? Do I love the law? No, I wanted to go to law school because that's power. And he wrote me back. And I remember when I got that letter, and I just stood in my kitchen and I started crying. And I thought, wow, this is someone that I've looked up to for so long. This is someone who's been so part and integral in the justice movement. When I opened that letter, he told me, he said, stop trying to find something that you love. You're never going to find it because you've gone through this trauma. You are not in a space of love, and prison is not a space of love. So what you need to do, this is the best piece of advice I've ever been given, find something that you hate and go destroy it.
Oh shit.
I do not go to prison because I love it. I go to prison because I fucking hate it. Mm-hmm. And my presence there is a disturbance in the establishment because they want bodies there, and I am a means to get bodies out.
Amen, sister.
Well, let me tell you right now, Jen, the way you're speaking, I'm looking at you like, you have so much anger towards the prison system. Yeah. And I love it because
it's our passion behind the people more than anything.
And I never saw it that way. Yeah. I always I'm going to put myself in this position because I've always thought I love working with kids. Mm-hmm. But, now that I'm hearing what you say and what he told you, it's just like, I hate bullies.
Yep.
I hate bullies. I can't stand them. And I do not tolerate that. I think that's why, I in the school system, because I want kids to get along. I want to abolish bullying to where they're able to see eye to eye and be respectful towards each other. So it's like, that's some powerful shit that you just told us right now. So
it's a game changer, and it was a game changer for me because what happened once I had that information, it unlocked so much. First of all, it validated my feelings.
Yeah.
I'm not broken because I can't find something to love. Mm-hmm. I love the people that are there. I hate the situation that they're in.
Yeah.
So I was able to still be this person, but just redirect and look at things differently. And once I was able to do that, it changed everything. So you hate bullies, right?
Yeah.
You don't hate children.
No, I don't hate children.
We hate the lack of empathy. We hate the lack of communication that people don't have, and the self-confidence, right? We hate, again, it goes back to, we hate the evil that people do, but not the person, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
I hate the institutions that make people react this way. Mm-hmm. So this is where my focus is at. So when I go into prison, right, and this is a metaphor, by the way, I'm not physically doing this, but the metaphor is, I am destroying this facility one brick at a time. Every time I leave, I take a brick with me, because that just means Mr. Mosley just got out of prison after 35 years. Yes, he did the work. But you know what? He and I worked together. When that parole board looked at him and they said, you did this letter that she wrote, and that you've been in leadership and you've done all of these things, this is a true testament to to the work that you've put in. That makes me feel good. That means, you know what? This validates everything. This validates all the money that I've put into this project. This validates all the car trips I've made out there, all the shitty motels I've slept in, all of it for this one thing. So someone can go home.
I love that. Go for it.
Sorry, I want to include you guys, how she's talking about road trips and the money. She actually has a website where you guys can actually donate. It's a nonprofit organization. So she's actually taking donations for anybody that can help. We are in a pandemic, but she's still providing materials that it's not cheap to print all the ink, the paper, mailing it out, or traveling and taking it physically there. Or even when she was there, having to stay in motels. Like, if you guys can possibly do this, we would appreciate it. I have already subscribed. I've been donating monthly because I think it's very important. I don't only do it for my brother. I am advocating for him, but I know that there's so many other people out there that are just like him in his position. So I think it's very important for people who have that empathy to please donate anything. You don't have to donate $100 a month. I
think it's $5 a month is the minimum. It's like a cup of coffee, right?
Yeah, and I think I'm donating 10 because I ain't got it like that yet.
She drinks 2 cups of coffee.
Yeah, 2 cups of coffee a day. I'm sacrificing Starbucks, but it's not the amount that you put in. It's the
solidarity.
Exactly,
it really is. And what's nice is it's reflective, because the guys know when I show up with new stuff, they're like, "Oh, you got a new sponsor?" And I'm like,
they know.
Yes.
Oh, that is so cool. I didn't know they know this.
Yes, of course. They love it. They love it. And so, I mean, because, in reality, it is all of us, right? It's all of us.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
We are, this is us.
Teamwork.
If we don't do this on the outside, right, they're not going to be coming home. And if they do come home, they're going to go right back in. We've already established that. That's data.
Yeah,
that's proven data, right?
Yeah, you guys can research this. It's not a joke.
So to go back to kind of the school thing, once I graduated from San Diego City College. I was accepted into UCSD. That's where I'm currently at.
Nice.
I am pursuing.
Yeah, we were talking
Thank
about.
you.
Hold on, let me
Thank you.
Hold on, let me hit that clap button. Let me hit that clap button.
The audience loves it.
I am I'm an older student. All my kids are grown.
You look
21. You look 21 to me, honey.
You're never too old to go to school.
You're not. And it's great. And I'm so glad I'm doing it now. But
we're glad to.
Right now I'm finishing up 2 bachelor's degrees. Wow. One in political science and the other one's in sociology. Woohoo!
Wait, the other one's in what?
Sociology. Yay! So, and
majors.
The reason this is important is this. So, political science is the study of institutions, okay, and how institutions work, how power works.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sociology studies the people in those institutions.
Human behavior.
Yes. So, for me, I need to become the smartest. I need to weaponize my brain. And I need to advocate for the people and the institution itself that the people that I care for the most are in. Now, I don't like prison, I think we should abolish all prisons. I think
too.
There's so much data that shows that we should and we can. But the 2 degrees overlaps, right? Because you have people in prison and you have this total institution. Yes. And so it's really important when we're talking about the people that are in there that we understand everything that's going on there. Understand, prisons are public institutions, but they are kept the most private. And that is by design. Yes. So all of us that are paying taxes, right, pay taxes to keep these prisons going. Manny, do you know what prison rehabilitation is?
I don't.
Do you know where your money gets spent for prison rehabilitation? Nobody knows. I keep asking this. Nobody knows what prison rehabilitation is or what it's not.
I really don't think there is such thing as prison rehabilitation. And I'm not knocking you because yours is a different organization that you're bringing in. But prison itself instead of rehabilitating to be able to reintegrate back into society, what they do is now you have a system that demoralizes you, dehumanizes you. Now you're just a number and you're not seen as a human being anymore. You know, so I feel like instead of it actually having the inmate go through, and I don't like to say inmate because I think that in and of itself is dehumanizing.
Yeah. And just to jump in there really quick, part of the work packet that I had sent into Calipat was specifically actually that, because language matters. Yeah. Right. And I asked them, check this box. How would you like to be referred to as on the outside by people on the outside? How do you identify? Is it inmate? Is it convict? Is it felon? Is it prisoner? Tell me. Exactly. Incarcerated person? You choose. And the resounding response was incarcerated person. So all of these other terms are used to deduce, right? And the criminal justice system, what that does is it labels you all throughout your stages in your incarceration, right? You're a defendant first.
Yes.
Okay, You're not a person, you're a defendant.
Yes.
And now you are a prisoner. Now
convict.
You're a parolee. So these are labels that are attached to you throughout your whole entire life.
And even then when we call them ex-cons.
Right. So why can't they just be a person?
Regular person, exactly.
Because we're a punitive society and we continue to want to put this wet blanket of stigma on people, right? And say, oh, well, he's an ex-con, you know? Well, what does that mean then? In fact, that should actually be a badge of honor. And that's how I look at it, is, you know what? You survived and you got out.
Yeah.
In fact,
and you're
you know
still
what?
pushing.
Yeah. And you're out here grinding and hustling and you're doing all those right things. You know what? Chest bump. That's what you get. That's how when my guys get out, and I see them on the streets when I go and do post-incarceration checkups in transitional homes. Yeah. And I go and check on these. Heck yeah, I do. Oh, yeah.
Now you know.
Listen,
I
am not leaving these guys. You know what? Why I wouldn't spend all these years with them inside prison and then just dump them once they get out. No, they need help more now when they're out.
Yeah, it is. It's true.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
They need a support system.
Yeah, exactly.
And they trust me. And so because they trust me, right? They're going to lean on me, you know, and it's like, I need to be there for them. I've promised them this. And
I'm
so
glad
I will
that you
continue.
did.
Oh, for sure.
I'm glad that you did too, because they need that support.
Sure.
It's like, they're not going to get it from anyone else, but you know, you're their guardian angel in a way. And it's just like, no,
literally.
Yeah.
I've told her, I was like, you're an angel. I've told her that.
You know what
before.
I say? You're a diamond.
Yeah, she's a gem.
She's a gem.
Jen is a gem.
Yeah.
Jen is the gem.
Can I hit?
Really,
I'm gonna hit your button.
Hit my, well, you know, stand in line.
Yes, that's my favorite.
No, but on the real though, I think it's amazing the fact that you stuck around for them. Oh, yeah. And you're right. People would have just been like, you know what, you did your part, I did my part. Now you're on your own here. Mm-hmm. Normally that would be the thing to happen, but
yeah, which is very typical.
Yeah.
I don't take off my prison shoes. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like I'm always wearing them. And so when I have a young man that just was released and he hits me up and he says, I'm at the car dealership. Can you be one of my references? You know, and then 2 hours later, I get a picture of him standing next to the guy who sold him the car. And it's like,
that is so cute.
That shit is all worth it. Yeah. You know? And this is right. This is what we have to do. We have to do this, because if we don't, who will?
Exactly.
And we cannot stand around and be waiting for people to do this.
No,
and so really one thing that this is going to lead into our next part, but this is very important because everything is based on policy. Right? Yeah. And all policy in California runs through Sacramento, right? If the legislators are not going to change policy, then we have to do it ourselves. And that's what I'm doing in prison. I'm going to literally make it so these guys don't come back. They're not going to change the policy for them. Then what we have to do is give them the skills and the tools so they don't come back. We have to wreck the system from within.
Yeah.
And stop feeding this machine with bodies.
Yes.
I agree.
Period.
I agree.
The reason why I majored in sociology was because I wanted to say this earlier, but we just kept going. I definitely resonate with you because my goal, and still to this day, a lot of things have happened, but has been to work in the juvenile hall system. Because the way I've seen it, one, because I was there, so I know what it's like. But secondly, if we can reduce the recidivism rate in juvenile halls and prevent them from being adult, quote unquote, criminals, because I don't like to use that word, but that's how society sees it. If we can prevent them from committing crimes at the age of 18, which is, and not even at the age of 18, but even before them, because they get charged as adults. A lot of people don't realize that even though you're not 18, you get trialed as an adult. And now you're serving like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years when you're a teenager. And then they go to YA and then they go to prison and all that. So my input or my intake on this has always been, if we can prevent it at the root when they're young, and you can still kind of mold them a little bit because they're still young, they're still pretty innocent, they don't really understand the world, you know. A lot of them are neglected. Like when I was incarcerated, I saw a lot of women who were prostitutes. And they weren't women, they were children. Let me clarify that. They were 14, 13, 15 years old. Like I'm talking about young girls in there for prostitution. Jesus. So if you were to imagine like how would their life turn out 5-10 years from now once they're 18? Are they going to be committing more crimes? Are they going to stick to prostitution? Like, you know, we don't know what their household is like, if they even have a family. What if they were abandoned? Like, we don't know. And so I always felt like, man, these young children, like when I was busted, there was this girl next to me. She used to be on the bunk next to me. And she found out she was pregnant at the age of 14. She was my age. She was 14 years old. In there, she found out she was pregnant, and she was sentenced to go to camp for like 6 months. So her whole pregnancy, she's basically incarcerated. And 14 years old. We're talking about 14, not an adult teenager where it's like 18 and you can get a job. 14 years old, and she was a gang member. Like, but this is what it's like. She was from South Central, gang member, involved in different activities, got a strike at 14 years old. Legally, she got a strike at 14 years old. So my thing was always like, wow, what's your life gonna be like at the age of 18? You already got a strike.
And a baby.
And a baby.
And a record.
And a record. And a woman. You know?
So it just kicks you all the way down to the bottom of the pile.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like my thing was like, wow, you're more than likely to go to prison. Yeah. Like statistics.
And your child.
Yeah, and your child.
When that child grows up.
Yeah, I mean, the baby was technically born and raised there. You know? So my thing was always like, I have to help the youth. Because if somebody, and I'm not saying nobody helped my brother because he had certain situations where he did have the help, but you know, things happen. But I feel like the more you help them out when they're younger, the less likely they are to go down that same path. Like you can kind of keep them astray from that path. And so that's always been my passion, the youth, because of the neglected children that we have.
Yeah. And then you couple that with racial resentment and bad public policy.
Yeah.
And
now you have variables.
And now you have 170,000 people incarcerated in California. And that's what that looks like.
Yeah.
So
it starts in juvenile hall and then it works its way up to county jail, prison. You know, you have YA, which a lot of people don't know, but that's actually like a kind of like a prison for juvenile hall.
A prison.
Yeah, basically.
It is. That's where YA is where you make your bones before you go to prison.
Yeah, basically. So let's say you're 17, about to go to prison because you're already sentenced. You're gonna go to YA first, and then you're gonna get transferred. Mm-hmm. So there's like different levels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you know, I that's why I feel like my calling has always been with the youth, the troubled youth. That's what I like to call it, because they're literally going through that trouble. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like the hardships.
It's I always kind of do a real quick verbal survey in my workshops, and I just been making a little mental note every time, and I kind of just do a show of hands, and I say, at what age did you become institutionalized? And that can look like foster care.
Yeah.
That can look like child protective services, all of these things. And we're down to single digit numbers now of young men or men who have been institutionalized since single digit numbers, since they were 7, 8, 9. And so you have this little boy who's been in child protective and now foster care, right? And then they keep going. Yes, and it keeps going. And now we have prisons full of men who have been raised by other toxic men in prison. Mm-hmm. And then CDCR wants to create all of these, mechanisms to not be that supportive in rehabilitation until it's too late. And then they say, hey, Jay Deuce, can you come in here? Can you help us clean up our fucking shit?
And we're going to talk about that right now. Tell us more about this project that you're working on and, who's involved in this.
Gotcha. So during the pandemic and programming has been shut down in the prisons, and I've been out of there for a year, it really allowed me to focus on the kind of programming that's needed and where it's needed and what does that look like. So a lot of the men that I have been working with for several years at Calipatria have transferred over to Donovan in San Diego. And once they were transferred over there and they got comfortable, they got a hold of me and they said, hey, guess what? We have some ideas, and you're like the only crazy person we know that would be able to do this. And I was like, yeah, I love crazy and I love prison. Let's do this.
You're like, I'm down.
I'm down. Like, come on.
I'm down for the cause.
I'm getting dirt on my shoes on this one. And they said,
we love it.
And so these guys, like I said, I've known them for several years and worked with them closely. And they said, okay, but here's the thing. We have Suge Knight. And I said, what? Like kidnap? What do you mean? Like, what do you mean you have Suge Knight?
Say that one more time.
Like, what do you mean you got Suge Knight? Like, what's going on? And they said, no. Like, Suge's in our housing unit, and we've become really good friends, and he's really excited. He wants to do a music program over here in Donovan.
Shout out to Suge Knight.
Suge Knight. I was like, well, all right, Marion, like, we're going to, like, you're going to get involved. This is cool. And they said, so we need your help. We want you to be like our outside sponsor. We're going to think up everything, but we just need someone that's going to be our outside contact. And I was like, tap me in, let's do it. And then it just created, and it just began to build, right? And now where we are at is Suge Knight and I have created a prison program. And we are going to be implementing that very soon, as the folks at Donovan get their second round of vaccines, which is coming very soon.
Yeah.
And so I'll be able to enter the facility then. So what does a Suge Knight prison program look like?
Yes.
Okay, so let's get into this really quick. Okay, so Mr. Knight and I have collaborated, and we decided that we wanted. Suge Knight is obviously infamous for death row records, right? Mm-hmm. And so we know that he was able to change the sound of a generation and generation.
Well said.
And we love it.
Too. Yes.
Yeah, he changed culture. So let's be honest about that. Let's
90s hip hop.
Right. We cannot we can't right?
Shout out to Katie.
We can't take away what Suge Knight did.
We can't.
Definitely not.
And so
I love 90s hip-hop.
I was telling Abby too that when you hear the name Suge Knight, immediately game changer.
Sure.
He did something in the 90s. Him and Dre started something that changed the game in so many ways.
Yep. Globally.
Yeah.
Globally. Yeah. So knowing that and knowing that capital that we have, right? And everything that Suge Knight was, let me emphasize on that was, is we wanted to do a complete 180. And so we started to think of, well, what is the 180 of death row? Well, it's redemption row.
I love this term.
I do too.
When you showed me that video, I was like, perfect name.
And she sent it to me, and I was just like, what is this?
He's like, what? Sorry, not she. He was like, what is this? I was like, bro. I was like, they worked on a documentary. Like, this is so dope.
Yeah.
I love
Which, by the way,
right now,
I
too,
know,
so.
sorry. I meant to say you.
Manuel last year.
Oh,
stop it.
So yeah, we took the antithesis of death row, and we said, well, this is the exact opposite is redemption, right? Mm-hmm. And so we are now Redemption Row, California, Inc. And
I love it.
Right, Mr. Knight and I will be running a series of prison programs inside Donovan together. This is something that, like I said, we came up with during the pandemic. The first program looks like this. It's going to be called Legends Music Therapy. And Legends is a little play on word, obviously, just because of who he is. But it's also his son's name.
Yeah.
And so it's a little ode to his son, which I think is fantastic.
I love it.
Right. And so what I've done is I've created a team of university academics and professors, local activists, people that are really involved with the rehabilitation of incarcerated people. And we're going to be doing a 20-week journey of unpacking identity through music inside prison. And so we'll have a lot of guest speakers, and Suge is going to provide some talent that he is still associated with that's going to be coming in as well. We are going to have this amazing program where it's not just music, it's going to also incorporate spoken word, poetry, and creative writing.
Oh,
I'm a poet. I'm a poet. You guys didn't know.
No, the minute you say poet, ding,
right?
Where's my...
Nope.
Note to self, I did not push that button. I did not push the...
Manny. Nope.
I did not push the no button.
Nope. That was Manny.
How dare you? You know what? You know what? Was it Manny?
Nope.
It wasn't Manny. There you go. That was me. No, but it was perfect timing. No, but no, every time the word poetry is brought up, like Abby's face, like, oh my god, oh my god,
You see my dimples.
yeah,
Right?
like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
Well, it's not everybody can express themselves through music, right? So other people, so we have to have different mediums, but all of it is a means to express yourself. And the whole theme of our workshop is identity, and it's very important when we talk about identity and the people that are in prison, right? Because there's this false identity that they've been carrying around with them most of their lives, and so especially when you're in an SNY yard, you're at a fracture point because you've lost your identity through various ways. In Suge's situation, you know, he has celebrity status, so he immediately goes into a protective custody yard, right?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with, gangs or anything else like that. It's just his celebrity status alone.
He's high profile.
He's very high profile.
Yeah.
So this whole collaboration, which we laugh all the time and we say, this is going to be the best collaboration you've ever done, which is kind of cool just to think about people that he's worked with. But in reality, Death Row did provide futures for so many people, financially and secured, a lot of kids going to private schools, through the means and the labor of their parents through Death Row, right?
Yeah.
But the thing about Redemption Row is that Redemption Row is actually going to save lives inside prison. This is the difference. And Suge sees this vision, and he wants to change his environment for the better. And we know he can, because he's changed culture once before.
Yes, he has.
And so now his sights are set on changing the toxic culture of prison. And he's going to do that the way he knows how to, and that's going to be with music and all of these creative avenues to give people this outlet of expression, right?
I love it.
I love the fact that he is an opportunist. Like, he loves to provide opportunity to people. And personally, that's the one thing that I truly admired from Suge this entire time that I've known about him. You know, going back to the 90s is like, I had to like go back and do my research on what he did in order to open up a lot of doors for the artists and the rappers back in the 90s to the early 2000s. And be honest, it's like, he did so much, and the fact that
he set the trend.
Yes, and the fact that he wants to continue says a lot too. So kudos to him on that.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the work that he's done so far, and what his vision is for the future. And at Donovan, there is a high concentration of incarcerated LGBTQ folks, and within that population, there's also a lot of trans and non-binary folks in there as well. And there's a lot of violence and a lot of harms within that population and into that population from a myriad of actors, right? And he does not like that either. You know, when you look into Suge Knight's history, you'll always see that he's always wanted to help out the people who couldn't help themselves. And that's really
underdog.
Think about why he got into the music business in the first place, right? It's because he felt like his friends were being taken advantage of, right? So understanding that base and where he comes from, it's easy to see that he will be doing the same thing in this environment that he's in now. So what we're also doing, another project that Suge and I are working on, is bringing in LGBTQ, trans, and non-binary activists in the San Diego area, and having them come in and provide education and support for the non-trans population, educating them on gender theory and social constructs of race, class, and gender, and how those all interact, right? This is something this man feels very passionate about. And he wants to make his time mean something.
Yeah.
And this is why I signed on to this, and this is why I agreed to this, and this is why we are going forward with Redemption Row. We're doing a lot of de-radicalization work with, of people that are incarcerated, that are in hate groups, white supremacy groups. So we're bringing in a lot of resources and people that are way smarter than me, that are gonna and can speak from that position. That will be putting these spaces cohesively together. And Suge and I can just, will participate, but this is going to be definitely a labor of love.
Yeah.
And it's something that, listen, violence and bigotry and homophobia and xenophobia, these are all normalized. In fact, they're rewarded in prison. They're rewarded, right? We're doing something radical, and we're standing up and we're saying, listen, this is not going to happen anymore. We're not about this abuse. We're not about the violence anymore. Again, everybody wants to go home.
We're not going to take this.
We're not taking this shit anymore.
That song came into my head
really
right now.
is. Like, it really is. And so what's nice is that I have this ally inside who is larger than life.
Yeah.
Suge Knight said, listen, lady, I see what you did at Calipat. I've heard what you did at Calipat. I want to do that over here. Will you do that with me?
Wow.
How am I going to tell him no?
I mean,
you don't.
You don't. You can't.
It's Suge Knight.
You just
well,
can't.
I mean, with that opportunity there, it's like you can't say no.
I can't say no. And whether it be Suge or no, and regardless of who it is,
whoever it was.
The thing is there is a need. The population is asking for help.
Yeah.
And they threw up the bat signal. And I said, I'm here. And they said, okay, cool. Like, we need you. We need your brains. We need all of that. Bring that in. And I'm really honored. And I'm really
just going to ask you, how do you feel? That was my next question.
It's very surreal. It's very surreal to know that, this person who, I grew up. I'm Gen X. I'm straight Gen X. Like, I grew up with this stuff. In fact, my first concert was Digital Underground, and Pac was a front man for them, or a hype man for Digital Underground. And I went. That was my first concert.
I wish I could have seen Pac.
Right.
I think we all would have wished to see Pac.
So I have.
Aren't you a lucky woman?
I'm of course, I'm embedded in this culture,
yeah.
right? So when you have this person who started this reach out to me and say, "Hey, I need your help," that shit hit hard.
I bet it did.
Like, it's still surreal. Yeah. It's very surreal, and I don't think it'll ever not be surreal. But I'm just very honored and privileged that I get to, again, be on his journey.
And we're glad,
well.
and we're glad that you've been given this opportunity with, with Suge Knight. I mean, it's Suge fucking Knight. Come on now.
That's his middle name. You know that, right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Fucking it's Suge fucking Knight. Yeah. No,
really?
I'm kidding.
I'm totally kidding.
I mean, I will still be like.
I was like, what?
No.
But
you know what? It's listen, I'm really proud of him. His health isn't great. He's been,
doing with his health?
It's not awesome. It's just not awesome. But, he's on a new workout regimen, which I'm really, this is great.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys in there are, like walking with him he's eating better and making better choices.
I honestly think that, the fact that he has his buddies right there next to him supporting him, I think that's what he needed.
And I'm sorry, I just want to say, being that he's in prison is unfortunate because of his health condition or conditions. I don't know what he has exactly, but, it just goes back to, again, not only mental health is important, but physical health. For sure. Mental health affects your physical health.
And vice versa.
Vice versa. They correlate with one another. So, this is another thing. They don't have the resources that we have here. They don't have doctors that you can just see overnight. It's a whole process for you to go to the doctor. And then even then it's you don't have the best doctors. It's not like you can be hey, I want to hire somebody. Even with the level of fame or money, you just can't be hey, I want this doctor to come and visit me today.
He's still a number in there.
And it's sad, but it's sad, but it's true. You're technically, for those that don't know, every quote unquote inmate, every prisoner has a number, a CDCR number. Yeah. So that's why she's saying he's just a number, which is sad, but it's kind of like your ID number in there. Yeah. I
mean, you're a whole different person in there. You're not.
So I really want people to understand that prison life is not easy, let alone when you're going through mental health issues or physical health issues. This is a big thing.
So another thing I just want to touch on with Suge is, everybody has this, idea of who he is, and we have to be very critical of that, because it's not just Suge, it's Lester too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a stigma.
Yes.
And although Lester does not have the social capital Suge Knight does, they're still going to carry around this scarlet letter with them. Right? And that means we have to uplift these people.
Yeah.
Not just men, because we all know that there's more than just men in prison, but we have to uplift the incarcerated people and give them that platform.
Yes.
No matter what they've done. Why? Because they're human beings.
Yes.
Period.
And I wanted to, before we end the show, I actually wanted to talk about the books that you have right here.
Yes, let's do that.
I was looking at that.
Wait, before we touch on that, I wanted to piggyback on what you said. I had mentioned earlier that society is very unforgiving as a whole. And I just want to reiterate something that I've been saying in our past episodes. Our mistakes do not define us. At the end of the day, we are all humans. We all make mistakes. Whether or not you committed the same crime or something different, or maybe never committed a crime, at the end of the day, you still have other mistakes that you've done, flaws. We're human. That's who we are. So it's not fair for somebody to point a finger, judge us based off of the mistakes that we've done, because at the end of the day, we all deserve a second opportunity and a chance to redeem ourselves, which is why I love the fact that it's called Redemption Row, because we all deserve that.
That's right.
Very true.
I wanted to say
you're
welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you. So just to, before I hit the books really quick, Redemption Row is going to have a lot of programs involved in it. It's going to be hyper fixated on Donovan right now, Facility A. We're going to turn that into a positive programming yard. In fact, my ultimate goal is to make that the premier programming yard in the state of California. I want guys And people all up and down the state that are incarcerated want to transfer to Donovan because we've turned it into such a positive programming yard that they know this is the ticket to get home. They know that when they come there, there's going to be support, there's going to be education, there's going to be fun stuff to do. There's hard work. You have to put in the work. You can't just show up. But that's also another thing too, is just putting your name on a list and showing up and putting yourself in a seat in a workshop is an act of defiance against the system already. That's courage. Just showing up. Showing up. And that's just the first step. So going off from that, what I brought today was just a little collection of some stuff. So Lester and I, our AVP manuals, this is kind of, mine's completely littered with stickers.
I wanted to check it out.
Yeah, and you know what? I do it because the guys don't get stickers, and this is also kind of like a little representation of who I am, and so they're always looking at, what does she have on their neck? So
that is cool.
We have our manuals that we use. So Lester knows this front and back. In fact, I think Lester has 2 sets. He's got the English and the Spanish version.
Oh, wow.
Because Lester, he does both.
Nice.
And so this is what the AVP manuals look like.
He also did mention that he helps translate in there.
Yes, he does.
And my brother does so much, bro.
He is my ace. He's my ace deuce for sure. And so a couple of other things I have here is projects that we've done at Calipat. This is through Words Uncaged, who is another amazing pro-prisoner organization here in Los Angeles, and I would suggest everybody get onto Words Uncaged. You can see a lot of our work on there.
What is it called again?
Words Uncaged. It's also Words Uncaged and Unlock Tomorrow. It's the same organization, right? Okay. So the first one here is this 128G, and that is the form that you get when CDCR determines that you are now validated as a gang member inside prison. So this book here is an art book, and the tagline of 128G, which is amazing, is art is revenge. And it really is. So art is also a very strong medium to express oneself. So I would suggest get on to I think it's Brick of Gold. Type in Brick of Gold Publishing, and the 128G is available. It's an amazing coffee table book, if you will, but it's also very beautiful. The words and the drawings in there are unlike anything I've really ever seen.
I can't wait.
It's an amazing collection of stories. The other one here is another thing that came out of Calipat, and it's
Man, I
wish I would have known. Yeah.
Wow.
And this is
letters
also
from Calipatria State Prison.
So these are letters from Calipat State Prison, and you can find this on Amazon. And it's also just a collection of stories, and it was the goal was to show the youth, don't live this life, because this is where you will end up, and this is no fun. No fun at all. This is not a boys' camp. This is life or death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And so that is a really hard, raw look at what a lot of trauma looks like in prison, and it's just very real.
I like the cover on
this. It's an actual envelope that they scanned in.
That's why I like this, because I look at this, I'm just like people are like
the
putting in their,
and I saw this
on the back side. You can see the return address, right?
Wow.
And you can see the prison stamp on the where it's
wow.
stamped.
Can you turn it around so they can see?
Yes.
Front and back.
And so if you do,
these are the stamps, guys. When
purchasing the 128G book, and man, we wish we should have known. That's going to be those proceeds definitely. Obviously, the men don't profit from them because they can't while they're incarcerated. Mm-hmm. But those proceeds do go to help the publishing company, and he is very, very invested in always getting the voices out of these men. So another quick 2 books I just wanted to. If anybody's ever...
Mind if I take a picture?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I need to.
If anybody's ever interested in like prison scholarship and histories of prisons, 2 books that I find are essential to that library as you're gaining your knowledge in the carceral state is Blood in the Water by Heather Ann Thompson. It's an amazing story about the 1971 Attica Uprising. And the reason that book is so special and personal to me is because of the aftermath of the 71 uprising at Attica. the men that survived that horrible time period, they were displaced all over the state of New York, and some of them found their ways into another facility, and they got together and they said, wow, that was terrible. We don't ever want to do that again. What do we do? And they created a support group, and they said, it's going to be us, prisoners, putting together this nonviolence workshop. And because of that led into AVP. And so the AVP program was created by prisoners for prisoners. It wasn't a bunch of people that look like me going in and saying, hey, this is how you need to act so you can get out. Oh, no. No, this was created by incarcerated men for incarcerated men. And they then extended and they said, we need help because we can only do so much. Yeah. And so they reached out. And who did they reach out to? They reached out to a man named Dr. Bernard Lafayette. And Dr. Bernard Lafayette should be a household name, but he's not. And I'll tell you why. He was instrumental in desegregating the Jim Crow South with Stokely Carmichael and Dr. Martin Luther King during the Freedom Rides with SNCC, which is the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. It's in the name, Nonviolence Coordinating Committee. It was a bunch of students like us that went on these Freedom Rides, right, to help desegregate the Jim Crow South. So he was brought in to help write the curriculum for AVP. Wow. And so when we're talking about the freedom struggle, it's real when it comes to this curriculum, and this is why it works so much. And the last part I will show is this last book here. It's called 23/7, and you can obviously find this on Amazon as well. And what this is it's a story about Pelican Bay. And, out of all of the nastiest prisons in the U.S. that are state-ran, that have a SHU, right, which is, the segregated housing unit, or
we call it the hole.
The whole, right. Pelican Bay had the most, notorious one, and there were men there for decades. They were given indeterminate SHU terms, and one of the gentlemen that I work with Suge, was instrumental in destroying that Pelican Bay SHU. He was part of the 2013 hunger strikes, and it was not. It was because of their resolve of starving themselves to death to bring the spotlight on how bad the prison was treating them, that it actually changed policy, and they broke that animal. Their Pelican Bay SHU and indeterminate sentences will never exist again because of that. So it talks, 23/7 really talks about how the Pelican Bay SHU was built, why it was built there, and what happened in there, and how it crumbled. Yeah. And that, again, all things run through Sacramento.
Can we elaborate a little bit on the SHU? Because there's obviously people that have never been to prison. Some people may have never had a family member in prison. They don't really understand what that is. And I really want people to know how bad prison really is. Even like a prison, it's a prison within a prison, in other words.
The SHU is... it's a place where the prison feels that this certain individual needs to be isolated, away from the population for whatever reason, whatever infraction that they've caused. And SHU terms can be short or they can be long. And before policy was changed, there was indeterminate SHU terms, which means if you're going to die there, period. You're going to die there, or you debrief. Those were your two options, die or debrief.
Wow.
Right?
That's crazy.
And it's sad because for decades there were people in there that were forgotten and were living in their underwear and drinking out of a milk carton and no spoon, eating food out of a bag.
God.
Committing suicide. I mean, it was really tragic.
I mean, I'm sorry, but if I was in that position, I think I would have been committed suicide. Yeah. I mean,
and think about that.
It's a tough position.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
It's like I was telling you off air. We treat people that are incarcerated worse than animals, and these are humans.
Well, you know what? It's funny that you say that. I'll just kind of parallel that. A couple years ago, up at CDCR Solano in Vacaville, there was a bunch of wildfires, and across the way from the prison is an animal shelter. Mm-hmm. So when those wildfires ripped through there, law enforcement went and evacuated the animal shelter and not the prisoners.
What?
And that wildfire. And this is you can look it up. You can, yes, for sure. You can literally watch the GoPro cameras of the cops and the first responders going in to take all the animals out, and literally 100 yards away is this maximum security prison with all of, now understand this, there's thousands of men sitting in this maximum security prison. The fire line, or the fire has breached now the fire line and is melting cars in the parking lot. These men at CDCR Solano had sheets and shirts soaked in water wrapped around their heads. They were trying to escape the smoke. That fire ripped through there. Understand the older population, anybody with breathing problems, and the
health
smoke
issues,
and everybody had evacuated the facility, right? So this goes to show we value animals' lives more than people. Now, understand this.
Oh my God.
So you have thousands of men that are hunkered down in a wildfire in a prison that's terrifying, and you have to rely on the people who built that facility.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
on
you know what?
COs.
And you have You have to rely on the people who built that facility, which are the laborers, the contractors who came in and built that facility, who are going to be the people who bid the lowest. So you are sitting now in a fire and a natural disaster, and you are having to worry about the lowest bidder for this state contract just built this facility. And I hope it's fireproof.
Wow.
It's gross. It's gross.
Shit.
This just goes to show you guys how bad we treat people who are incarcerated.
Yeah.
She's just solidifying what I said.
Yep.
She's just validating it. Yep. We treat people that are incarcerated worse than animals.
And we shouldn't be doing that because
they shouldn't even invent the shoe.
No,
prisons in general, but the shoe, the trauma that comes behind that, as she was saying, like, it's so traumatic for anybody to be in there.
Yeah.
And now she's bringing up the wildfire. Imagine the people that could not escape. Right. What do you tell their family members? Right. How do you even tell? Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry your loved one's burned alive because the lowest bidder major sends prison.
Yeah, like we couldn't get him out. I'm sorry.
Or even in Pelican Bay. Sorry, we didn't build this to withstand a tsunami.
Wow.
And so you can use those. If you're in a position of power and you want to abuse it, you can always use that, which I know for a fact, if you read that 23/7 book, it'll tell you that's what those correctional officers would tell people in the shoe. Jesus. Oh, you know what? There's been a tsunami alarm. You better batten it down. We're out of here. And they would put these metal sliders in the event water came in so it wouldn't go in their cells. These guys were making like periscopes so they would be able to breathe. They literally thought they were going to die and they were going to be drowned.
What the hell?
Yes. And so correctional officers would be like, well, we're out of here. And now these guys think that they're going to die. They're all going to be left for dead there. So you have to understand when we're creating prisons where, in specific, they're not just random. They're not just random. They're put in position. They're put in places. They're very strategic. They're away. Oh, yeah. They're away from main arteries,
far,
right? And they're going to be next to places that possibly could have
hazards.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, to go back on to the trauma with the shoe. I work with a lot of men who have come out of federal institutions in the shoe or state facilities where they've been locked down and isolated for years at a time. And what that looks like is a man sitting in a chair with his arms folded with a pair of sunglasses on, not wanting, it's too noisy in the room for him. There's too much motion going on. He has to have his back up against the wall. He doesn't want to participate. But you know what? I'm so thankful that man is there because like I said earlier, just him signing up and walking into that room is bravery. It's out of his comfort zone. And he is trying to listen to new solutions to old problems. Right?
Yeah.
And so that act of him just being there is a step. I don't ever force these guys to ever do anything past that. And usually my teammates will go, hey, Jen, that guy did, 10 years, in Chino, in the shoe or whatever, or Corcoran. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, I've got that. Like, we deal with those people differently
because
of their trauma.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to force this person to link arms with me and run around the room. That's not happening. What I do is go, hey, you know what? I'm going to make a cup of coffee. Would you like one? We can stand back here and watch these guys act like clowns, and we can and now we're talking.
You have the bond.
Yeah, it's just
slowly.
Now we're talking, and he can watch this, and it's at your own time. You cannot. It's like throwing a cat in a bathtub full of water. We know what's going to happen. They are not going to react well. So read the room. Read the room.
Yeah.
We cannot integrate people that the state has locked away for decades with no human touch and no human contact, and then all of a sudden expect them to be active participants in society. Those things are counterproductive. They don't go together. So I really, like I said, I do work a lot with active gang members and active prison gangs on the main line a lot, but in the same breath, I also am working with a lot of the S and Y guys and the trauma that they've come from being in the shoes, or even just brutalized in the prison system themselves. And it's just, apples and oranges, same fruit, different yards, different set of problems, same set of problems, all still human beings.
Yeah.
So
we're all human at the end of the day.
we are.
Yes,
we really
are.
are.
Yes,
And
we are.
It's so heartbreaking to hear these stories, man.
But there's hope.
There is
There's
hope.
hope because you know what?
definitely is.
I'm not going to stop.
And we hope
I'm
you
not
don't.
stopping. And, and here's the deal. Before we end, I just kind of want to throw this out there. This is where you can find me, right? Can I do that real quick?
Yeah, go
for
it.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please do so. We always do
usually
that at the end of the show.
But before you
That's
do,
okay.
before you do, I actually have one more question that I wanted to ask you. What can you say to everyone watching this episode right now? Like one thing you can tell to our viewers.
Give them hope, please.
Zoom in on the
People-
can you zoom in on her, please?
Oh, yeah.
Like
No
us.
Zoom in
pressure.
on her,
No
please.
pressure.
No pressure.
Right?
People like us that
know
have
what?
incarcerated family members and that have served long prison sentences.
Yes.
Maybe some people even have had people die in prison because they got life without parole, like how you've mentioned.
Don't give up. Don't give up on your family member. Don't give up on your loved one. Having a support system on the outside is the greatest gift you can give them. Unfortunately, sometimes a lot of the men that I work with don't have that. I become that support system, right? I'm only one person.
Yeah.
I'm only one person, and I work with thousands and thousands of men. And what I would say is, your loved ones are coming home. I will make sure of it.
Excellent.
Yes, thank you so much
All right,
for
guys,
everything that you do. Sorry, my hands are very cold.
No worries.
It's cold in here. You're so warm. But I do want to say that it's not an easy journey.
It's not.
For those of you guys that have family members in there. It is very traumatic, how we mentioned, not only for the person incarcerated, but also for the family members. It's, you guys have seen me cry on here. Like, this is years of trauma that I've had to deal with. I kind of suppressed it, but that's why you're seeing emotions come back out. And I'm trying not to cry again, but it's a very sensitive topic, extremely sensitive, because this is my only brother. Like, he's my older sibling and he's my only sibling. So you guys can only imagine how that feels. And I had to become the older sibling because he needs me. You know what I mean? As much as I need him, he needs me even more. Because I'm in the streets. I'm out here and I have my freedom, which the goal is to get him out. But I can resonate with a lot of you that have been going through this. It's a very painful situation, but there's hope. Like how she said, keep your faith. I am a big believer in God, and I know that God does not do anything by mistake. He will turn ashes into beauty. He's done it with me. He's done it with other people that I know. And at the end of the day, God is good. There will be a way if you keep your faith and just stay strong. I always say this, the joy of the Lord is our strength. He's the one that has given myself the strength, my mother the strength, having 2 bad kids at one point. I was incarcerated while my brother was on the run. She spent Mother's Day on her own that day in 2008, Mother's Day. So my mother's strength is everything to me. She's the reason why I hustle so hard, why I want to do everything that I can do to give her the life that she deserves, that she didn't have, especially being an immigrant woman from Mexico, not knowing the English language and struggling here in the US. So there's a lot of things that, you know, us minorities, Latinos in particular, our parents are already struggling, and now they have to deal with the system failing us, failing our children. There's people like Jen, like myself. This is one of the big reasons why I wanted her on here, because I wanted to be that voice for other people that our voices have been shut. This platform is for us to be vocal on what really goes on behind the scenes. Like, there's so much that goes on that we didn't even get to touch base on, but, you know, it's a very disturbing place to even be there. And how she said she hates prison. I absolutely hate the system. Everything about the system, from the police station, the handcuffs, all of that. I've been there. It's not fun to be shackled up. I've had my ankles shackled up, my hands, my waist. I've had that. I know the feeling. My arms, my wrists were bruised the day that I got incarcerated because I was shackled up. I was literally in chains all day long. Literally all day long for about 8 hours. My wrists were bruised. And that trauma, I will never forget. This is why I am so vocal and passionate about our youth, about our incarcerated people that we tend to forget about, you know, as a society. So if you can help them and start your own groups, your own organizations, if that's your calling, if that's what has been embedded in you, if you feel that fire just spark up right now because you've been thinking about it, please start it. I am like begging you. We need more people like Jen who are out here active doing this. We need more people for the youth, for even the adults. We forget about the elderly. What, like she said earlier, what about the elderly that have trouble walking, breathing, you know, any health issues that are in prison or are incarcerated? We need more help. So please, either if you want to join her on her group. If you live in Southern California, join her. If you're in LA, she's not that far. She's in San Diego. She's only a couple hours away. Please do what you can if that's what's in you. If you can sponsor her, that's another way you can help if you're not local, or if you don't feel like you're ready to start your own organization. Please help her, even if it's $5 a month. Anything helps. So that's all I really wanted to share with you guys from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Abby, for sharing that. That's some deep words right there. And, you know, please reach out, guys. Don't hesitate to ask us questions.
Yeah,
don't hesitate to ask Abby any questions.
I mean, I know a lot, not because I want to, but I do know a thing or two.
She does,
you know.
But before we end the show, Jen, spit out your information so people can contact you.
You bet.
Get in contact.
Just real quick, I need volunteers. Excuse me, my voice isn't.
Y'all heard she needs volunteers.
I definitely want to volunteer with you.
And so this is what this looks like, right? Right now, because of the pandemic, I had a lot of older retired people who were coming into prison with me and helping, and they were running their own AVP workshop simultaneously as I did. So I had quite a few people helping me. But because of the pandemic and because Calipatria is so far out there, a lot of the retired, all of my retired volunteers retired. I mean, yeah, they're retired, and they retired from doing AVP. Right?
They retired from volunteering after retirement.
Yeah. And I don't blame them. I mean, it's a rough. You know, Calipat gets 120 degrees out there in the summer, and that's a long haul.
It's ridiculous.
I'm a one-woman show, and I have 4,000 men at Calipat.
Wow.
Now I just took on Donovan, so as you can imagine, like, I really need to duplicate myself. And although I don't think the world is ready for that, what I really need is some volunteers. And so if you're up to learning this nonviolence, conflict resolution that we are doing and crisis management inside prisons, please contact me. And I will be more than happy to discuss it with you. And we can talk about getting you into the facility and becoming an advocate and of conflict resolution inside prison. So how do you do that? You can go to www.avp Calipatria.com. That's my website. And if you...
Side note, you'll see my brother on there. Thank you for those pictures. Yes, my brother's on there.
avpcalipatria.com is our website, and there's a link on there where you can email me and you can say, hey, Jen, I listened to you. I want to get involved. How do I do that? And I will respond to you, I promise. You can also find me on social media. You can find me on Twitter at JDeuce619.
We need you to get an Instagram.
It's coming. I know, I will. Okay. I'm also on Facebook at JDeuce, JAYDEUCE. That JDeuce is my moniker inside prison. That's what all the guys call me. So
I love it.
I love it.
That's it. Like, I walk in, I hear that gate, I hear that gate buzz, and there's hundreds of guys out there, and there's JDeuce. It's so
that
cool.
is so cool.
So you
got fans,
and so if you want to. I do. If you want to support, please, I will take your $5 coffee money once a month, and I have a Patreon page, and that is under Just Jen. So JUSTJEN is my Patreon page, and any amount helps once a month. I literally use my university scholarship money to fund my activism.
Wow.
And so, yeah.
That's how I know you're a real one.
I'm a real G, huh?
You are.
Yeah.
I'm actually a silent G, like in lasagna. That's what I am.
I don't hate it. I love it.
I love lasagna.
I love lasagna.
Right? So, but this is where I'm at. I don't expect everybody to be where I'm at. But if I know I have clicktivists out there, and they sure like to click and add money into my account. So I take that, trust me, it always goes directly to supplying all the material for the workshops. Yeah. It does really help. Every little bit does help me. Like I said,
and it gets,
a lot of this is out of my own pocket.
Yeah, and it gets expensive, you guys, because
it is very expensive.
I have to, this is another thing when we're talking about money, right? I have to buy my brother these kinds of envelopes, the manila envelopes. I have to buy him paper, stamps. What else do I buy him?
Stationery, quarterly packages, all the stuff that goes in, everything, and just maintaining that line of communication.
Yes.
Globaltel in itself. How much do you spend on your Globaltel phone? Come on, girl. How much you coughing out?
He doesn't call anymore because he calls Alexis.
Well, then you're saving.
I'm saving right now, but I'm like, he's not even calling. Right. But it gets expensive. And let me just say, county jail is fucking ridiculously expensive. Yeah. County jails where we spend the most money on global telling. Like, them motherfuckers are ripping us off. They're taking all our money, really.
That's what we call predatory capitalism.
Yes, it's fucking ridiculous.
You're preying on the most powerless people.
The vulnerable people.
And the most people that are in the most poverty.
Exactly. That's what I'm
like,
saying.
You know what? If you want to still support your loved one, well, then I need all your money. You
know what it reminds me of? The banks. When you get the overdrawn fee. Like, you're already broke,
and now
you're charging me
$30.
Yeah, you're charging me $35 because I'm broke and I can't afford it. Like, instead of saying we're gonna just shut down the transaction, but we're not gonna charge you. It's like, that's what fucking prison is like.
Yes,
it's fucking ridiculous. You're preying on the most poor people.
It makes you almost wonder if it's by design.
It is by design. It really is. And I've said this over and over. When I took criminal justice in, it was administration of justice in Valley College. Mm-hmm. Literally, I remember my professor, I'm not going to put his name on blast, but he was a former cop. He was a retired cop. And me majoring in sociology, learning all these theories, he was like, Miss Liberal, do you have anything else to add? I was like, yes, I fucking do.
That's why he was teaching ADJ.
Exactly. Exactly. He was not teaching sociology because I had such a passion, which I still do, because I'm like, no, this is not fair. You're a former cop. I come from the hood. I come from the streets. My brother's incarcerated. I see the injustice. And so that was always a problem. And I was like, no, this is some bullshit. This is literally created by design. This is why I had such a passion with sociology.
And this is why I hammer home a lot of this in the workshops. We talk a lot about the social constructs, right? Because without these, if we didn't have social constructs, we wouldn't be having a lot of these issues. And because we have built up these fake things, like race is a fake thing, right?
We're all
Gender is a fake thing, right? We've made these boxes to make ourselves feel comfortable on how we deal with other people. Because we don't see what's inside someone, we need to know quickly what we're dealing with.
Yeah, identify you real quick.
Right. And now from those things, I can now sort you out in my brain. Right?
It's true.
And so
stereotypes.
So they are stereotypes and they're terrible. And so the biggest, like we go back to stigma, right? And the incarcerated stigma. And if there's anything that can come from this podcast, I would hope that it would be, we need to break the stigma of people that are incarcerated and those that have been released. Let's stop attaching their criminal history as their name. They're not a parolee anymore. They're not a defendant. These are human beings. Yep. And although they've made a poor decision, whether it be on their own fault or not, they still deserve respect.
Yes.
And they need to be treated with respect.
Because
there is always an alternative. Always. And I don't mean to be cliche and say alternatives to violence, but it really is. We have choices. Sometimes our choices are not great and we only maybe have one or two, but it's still a damn choice. It is. Yeah. And so again, you have a choice to sign up and come into the workshop. You have a choice to become part of the group. You have a choice to become part of the leadership. You have a choice now to go to the parole board and say, I did this. Yeah. This was my choice. Yeah. And I made these good choices. And these good choices now, over this period of time, should now outweigh this one bad choice I did.
Which is exactly how I feel about my brother.
Right. We're not going to keep labeling this person when he was 18 and now he's 33. Because I know damn well I don't want to be labeled what I did when I was 18.
Exactly.
And I'm
preach this.
Older than 33.
You're still in your youthful years.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But yes, that's where you can find me. Please, if anything, go to avpcalipatria.com. Please check out Words Uncaged and Unlock Tomorrow, same organization. Please read. Please support your local prison project, people. Yes, volunteer. If you don't have money, just volunteer. Come check me out. I will take you to prison. I'm not taking you to a yard because you can't. But
I haven't seen my brother in a year, bro. I want to see him.
I will take you to Donovan. In fact, you know what you should do? You should, everybody here, we should pack it up when the facilities reopen, and you should come in and meet Mr. Knight yourself and be part of and check out the music program that we're going to be doing.
Right. I don't know if you know this, but I love music.
And poetry.
You can tell, yes, and poetry.
But I mean, like this is what it's about, right? Because you can talk about prison from your personal standpoint in that your brother is in there, but you, my friend, only go to visitation.
Exactly. And that's what I've been wanting to do. I want my brother, first of all, I want my brother on here so he can speak on his behalf and his story, but in due time. Right. But I definitely want to take on that opportunity to give them the voice.
You need to go inside what I like to call the belly of the beast. You need to see it for yourself. You need to taste the food. You need to you need to experience it. Yeah. There's I always say this, right? If this wall, if there's a sign on it that says wet paint, you bet your ass I'm going to go up and touch it. I need to make sure it's real. Mm-hmm. Whether I get paint on my fingers or not, I'm not going to believe this thing. Right? So I encourage.
Because it's the symbolic.
I encourage you, especially as young people with a microphone that you have and a platform. This is how you're able to really reach. You've now been there. You've been past visitation, right? You've sat in there. You've heard and watched grown men cry and talk about their lost youth. That's
the most heartbreaking thing.
It's all of these things, and it's going to permeate in your marrow.
Yeah.
And you will never be the same person ever again. Once you leave there, your life will be completely and drastically different. Mm-hmm. And it will change the course in which you decide to pursue your justice and criminal justice and social justice. These going into prison as a volunteer, obviously, is it connects a lot of dots.
Yeah.
And it opens up so much more. And let me tell you, women and men and non-binary people, I welcome everyone. I really do. Because prison is a microcosm of society. And we have all sorts of people out here. Mm-hmm. And we need to show support that there's all sorts of people. We're not, as a woman, don't be afraid. As a man,
I'm definitely not afraid.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to come into prison. Guys aren't going to want to fight you. You know what happens? Guys in there love us. Why? They want us to come back.
Yeah.
So they treat us like royalty. I am treated so like royalty in there.
You're a queen.
Because I am. Because they want me to come back. They know that when I'm there, they tell me, I felt like I haven't been in prison. I wasn't in prison all weekend.
I was just going to say that because you're from the streets and you give them that.
I bring in a stereo.
Yeah.
And we're bumping music during our break. And you know, like we even went so far one time we were like, let's get in some old 80s jams. We'll do like a prom in here. And I was like, no, we are not doing a prom in here. You're crazy.
That is so funny.
But we do. And the guys cook for me. And it's just a good space. And, you know, I don't have a family that I can call my own on the street. Right. And these men have become my family.
Oh,
you know,
that's how my brother sees you. I can guarantee you that.
And I'm okay with that. Right. So I'm feeling a void. They're feeling a void.
Yeah,
and it's this symbiotic relationship, right? Where we're just constantly providing stuff for each other. So I just wanted to say thank you for letting me come on.
So much.
Thank you for being here with us.
Before we wrap it up, I did want to say really quickly, I don't know if you guys know this. I don't know if I told you guys, but now that we're speaking about the incarcerated population, one of my goals obviously is to have my candle business thrive, right? Which you know of. But one of the reasons why I've always wanted to be a business owner since I was younger is because I know that a lot of the formerly incarcerated people don't have jobs because they're not eligible for jobs. They don't qualify because of their criminal record. So one of my things that I wanted to intertwine was I want those people. I want them to work for me. I don't want to pay them minimum wage. Yeah. You know, they deserve an opportunity to have not only the opportunity to work, but have a good paying job.
For sure. They need something that they've never had is upward mobility.
Yeah.
And the upward mobility that they have had sometimes looks like an informal economy, right? On the street.
Yeah. Minimum wage.
Hustling. Sex work, all of these things are part of an informal economy, and we can't keep doing the same shit because we'll keep getting the same results.
Exactly. Yeah. So once my business is thriving, I want you to send them my way.
I got you.
Well,
so I can hire them.
Yeah, we definitely got to get you on here, but unfortunately we are out of time.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you
we
so
love
much.
you.
Thank you so much.
For the drive.
Yes.
Thank you. We love you.
We hope to have you back on the show soon.
And
let us once your project progresses more, let us know, and then we'll be happy to bring you back. All right, cool.
When the facility's open, you're coming in.
Yes, I'm ready.
Cool.
Thanks.
All right.
I'm ready.
Thank you,
tomorrow.
guys.
Let's
Folks,
go.
thanks so much for watching the episode Living the 323. We'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.